Hello, my name is David Fox. Welcome to another episode of the Business of Higher Ed podcast. Today, we are going to be exploring what we call Northern Exposure. That is the business of education in Northern Canada. Now, when we talk about the business of education, it would not be complete without considering the opportunities and challenges to universities and colleges in northern communities. To help us learn more about this, I am pleased to welcome Henry Gomez, who is the Associate Dean of Academics at Keyano College in Fort McMurray, Alberta. So, and if you haven't checked out Keyano College's campus and its website, it is absolutely a beautiful campus in a stunning geographic area. So, welcome, Henry. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you, David, and really a pleasure to be here. As you said it, like Keyano College is let's say is part of my new life, as I like to call it. In the past I was working in Toronto for quite some time in different educational institutions, and let's say that this is a new step in my career, and I'm really loving it. So if you have ever wondered what happens when the road ends, that's something that we're going to talk about here, because after Fort McMurray, there are only 53 more kilometers to the north, and that's it. That's the end of the road.
That would be an interesting, what happens in those 53 kilometers would be an interesting podcast in itself. Henry, you've kind of gotten into it a bit, but I'm very interested in your journey to Keyano. Can you share a little bit about your background and your academic travels?
So today is my 8th anniversary in Canada. So since I came to Canada, I've been working in education in different capacities. I started teaching economics and international finance and international business, things like that. Got this new opportunity at Fleming College Toronto, where I was the academic director. Then I was always on the look for an opportunity to live in a different part of Canada that was not Toronto and maybe not Vancouver. And I was really looking into something like a small town, and I was kind of like opening myself to new provinces. Then by May this year, I got an offer, and the offer said you have to be in Fort McMurray in a month and a half. So that's a pretty quick, because
Right.
I was expecting something like you need to be here in 2 months maybe, or 3 months, because moving from Toronto, and just keeping in mind that there's a flight from Fort McMurray to Toronto, and it takes 4 hours, 3,704 kilometers. Okay, Keyano College serves the municipality of Wood Buffalo, which is kind of like the broader definition for what comes into Fort McMurray and some other small populations that are around that. So it really serves as a community center. So I will say that Keyano College is that point of connection for the community, and it really gave me the perspective of education in another sense, in terms of let's serve the community, let's support our students, let's support the community, let's integrate what the community is bringing, and it's just incredible.
Yeah, that drive would have been something else. So let's start. You've touched a bit on this. Let's start with regional context here. Can you share your thoughts on how the geography and the cultural context of Northern Alberta, and you talked about Wood Buffalo, impacts Keyano's academic programming and community engagement? I, for example, see there seems to be a fairly close relationship with Syncrude up there. But how does that geography and culture impact your programming and community engagement?
Of course, this college serves a community, Fort McMurray has around like 100,000, 70,000 to 100,000 people. And you may say like, how is that there's a difference between 70,000 and 100,000? Is because there's a floating population that comes and goes. And why is that? And the answer for that is because here in Fort McMurray, we have the oil sands, which is kind of like the oil production companies. And you may have heard about these names like Suncor, like Canadian Natural Resources, like Syncrude, Petro-Canada. That is a brand of Suncor, okay? But Fort McMurray is way more than just oil. Fort McMurray has surprised me for the amount of innovation that is going on here. Like it is incredible that they have like huge institutions that are solely dedicated to the development of small companies. So where comes Keyano College into all of this? Of course, we have programs that are designed for the trades, like power engineering that really like meets the demand for the oil sands. So it's a very much in demand program. We have the whole truck driving, which is of course influenced by the oil sands, but at the same time we have also a huge like a very important medical facility that is the Northern Lights Hospital. And we also provide for them. We also provide with our healthcare department that we have like we have the nursing and we have several healthcare programs that are coming down the line just for us to keep on really satisfying that demand, serving that community. In the School of Business, for example, we have programs not only like business administration, but also accounting, human resources. And one that I think is very important is hospitality. And you may not think about it, but in Fort McMurray, there are plenty of hotels. And the tourism that is developing here is incredible. You will see that we have here ski resorts. And one thing that for me is like one of the most beautiful parts of Fort McMurray, the Northern Lights. You can see Aurora Borealis here in your backyard. So it's just, and the amount of people that comes to see that, it's incredible. And this is something that people come to see. And there are like touristic packages designed for that. And our people in hospitality is also for that, not only for that, but also, for example, for the oil sands. Like the oil sands, they have like the camps where people live there. And they're not like small things. I was like last week in an invitation that I attended for how big they are, and if they could be hotels, those would be the biggest hotels in the world. So it's like massive things. It's like 10,000 rooms. So it's like incredible. They have even their own airport. But again, as I mentioned at the beginning, this is not only an oil town. Fort McMurray is much more than that. And that's the community that we serve here at Keyano College. You may think about it. All of these oil sands and all of this environment requires as well other programming and requires as well a lot of programs that are like pathways with other institutions. So at Keyano College, we also have like a bachelor's of business administration program that we do with NAIT, that is a polytechnic in Edmonton. And we have plenty of other programs in other areas that let students do the pathway with the University of Alberta. And one of those is, I think, is in terms of the Bachelor of Education. We have also like other programs in environmental sciences. We have our own like state-of-the-art labs. And if you think about it, that's a lot of variety. That's a lot of programs, and meaning that Keyano College is really like the institution serving all of these people and all of the different demands that the industry have. And that if you see it, like trades is one thing, oil sands is one thing, but the other industries surrounding that are immense.
That's amazing, and it really speaks to it really speaks to schools being embedded, particularly northern, remote, or even rural schools, how embedded they are in the communities that and the regions that they serve. Uh, Everything is connected to everything else. Continuing education, adult education, distance education, online education, these are all important for all higher education institutions. Is continuing education, adult education, distance education, um, dual enrollment, dual credits, are these also an important part of Keyano College?
Definitely, David. I will say that, as I mentioned at the beginning, we are here to serve the community. Like a Keyano College, I will say, one of the main parts of their mission is really that we are here to serve the community, to help our community, and that means not only our students but also all of the population that is living around the Wood Buffalo area. That's a lot of people, and definitely we have a lot of programs. Okay, as I mentioned, we also have our continuing education department, but very much adjusted to the new realities of the
Mhm.
world of computers, of the world of AI, of gaming. This is something that I didn't mention, but I believe this is something very interesting about Keyano College and the programs that we have at Keyano, is that we have something called the esports arena. And
Yeah.
this is
I saw that on the website, and yeah.
yeah. And when I came, I said, this is something that not even big institutions in Toronto may have. And what is the esports arena? It's like a center with equipment, hardware, like pro hardware and software that allows students to kind of develop their skills in esports. And you can say what esports, League of Legends or Valorant, or like games like that right now they have a lot of traction in around the world. And I have met students that are part of our esports team. We also have like a pro team that participates in tournaments and things like that. And I
Wow.
met this student, and he moved as well from Toronto. And he told me I came here because it is like incredible the amount of technology, the state of the art that you have here. And it also talks about how innovation is playing a role at Keyano College. We may as well think about other program that I think I missed to mention as well, is aviation. So we have a
Okay, yeah.
business aviation program that is in partnership with McMurray Aviation. We have this program in which the students go through a dual program that is aviation, in which they receive their license as pilots, and also they study a component of business administration.
Hmm.
So very, very much interesting. And of course, there's a huge field for a lot of career possibilities for the students taking that program in aviation.
Hmm.
Is you can imagine the amount of things that needs to be done, thinking of the oil sands, thinking of environmental science, thinking
Right.
of
Hmm.
the remoteness of the area. Because think about it, like we are remote, Fort McMurray is remote. Fort McMurray is not rural. Okay, it's a small
No.
city that you will find everything that you need here. Okay, you may not expect plenty of options, but you will see one Walmart, one Canadian Tire, couple of Sobeys, gas stations, a small shopping mall, but it's all what you need in a small quantity. There are plenty of programs coming down the line, and let's say that, but always keeping in mind that what we do is really to serve the community and to help industry and to work with them in terms of creating new businesses, expanding innovation,
Hmm.
and all of this.
Oh, thank you very much. I have one question. Do you have a Tim Hortons?
Of course, we have like four Tim Hortons.
Multiple Tim Hortons, yeah. Moving on to students, are there differences from your past experience at colleges in Toronto in recruiting for Keyano College? And what are some examples?
We work a lot with the high schools. We work a lot with the counselors. You may assume that, for example, as Keyano College being the only college in the region, you may assume that by default the students will go into Keyano College, and that's not the case. The case is that although like the easiest option will be to stay at home and let's say study at Keyano College, many of them or let's say a significant part of them take the big step and they go to Edmonton aiming for the University of Alberta. But that's where the whole recruitment of Keyano College comes into action, is that trying to persuade them that there are plenty of ways in which our students can study part of their programs and they find a pathway to the U of A, or find a pathway to, let's say, NATE or to other institutions that are not restricted to Alberta, but maybe like a U of T later down the road.
I can imagine that students maybe growing up in a northern community might want to try something different, right? As part of college, university. In terms of getting into the high school, are there particular recruiting strategies that you use with those students? For example, some schools are they offer kind of a dual enrollment or a dual credit where they can earn credit while still at high school for some courses at the college level. Are there what types of are there examples of how you really are working with those local and regional high schools?
No, of course, all of these programs like actually exist. We also have like in our college we have the school of academic upgrading. So that's another one that helps a lot. We also do a lot of recruitment with the schools, as I was mentioning. Usually, every at the start of every academic year, we sit down with with high school counselors, and we have a nice meeting in which we present kind of like the updates of the programs, the new programs coming down the line, and there's a whole team dedicated to recruiting from schools. We host our open houses for the municipality. Keyano, like it's a word in indigenous language that roughly translates to sharing, which meaning that the focus of Keyano College is really on the community. As you may imagine, this is something that maybe we haven't talked a lot about, but one of the main demographics of Fort McMurray or Wood Buffalo is Indigenous communities. So for us, it also plays a big role.
The college's engagement interaction in terms of in the Indigenous populations in northern Alberta, at least, but I'm sure more than that. Indigenization, truth and reconciliation. That is, I'm assuming, a very large part of programming at Keyano College.
In Toronto, of course, you have the land acknowledgement and things like that. But here, it really goes to another level, to a level of having our like the indigenous part really integrated into the this smudging ceremony, in which they have like a blessing, if we can call it a blessing, from the creator, and this is done by the indigenous leaders. We collaborate a lot on the community with the indigenous populations. There are plenty of them that live in this what we call the territory under Treaty Number 8. So is it goes way beyond just the land acknowledgement. It's really integrated into the community.
So now looking from the outside of Fort McMurray in terms of recruiting, what is your experience in terms of setting aside international students for the moment? What is your experience in terms of recruiting from outside of Fort McMurray in?
Yeah, there's some programming in Fort McMurray in Keyano College that is very much appealing to other regions. So if you think about it, like in only in Fort McMurray, 15% of the total oil and gas working population works here. So it's 15% of the total. That's immense. And if you think about, there are plenty of students from other provinces, from other locations that are looking forward to find programming that is specific to their needs. And you may see that, for example, there's a huge marketing effort that is not only dedicated to the trades and the oil sands and all of this, but other programs as well. So I recently went to Edmonton, and I was surprised that in the West Edmonton Mall, that I think is the biggest mall in North America, you see a lot of ads from Keyano College, and ads inviting students to apply to get enrolled in their trades programs, in their nursing programs, business, school of business. So yeah, the focus really is that to attract students not only within the municipality but to serve other population areas.
Is there any difference that you've noticed in terms of, again, we're talking the business, we're talking about sustainability, financial sustainability. Have you noticed any difference in terms of retention rates? Is retention is there a different experience that you've seen at Keyano, and are there strategies apart from offering very strong academic programming, practical programming, trades, athletics? I know you have athletic teams and the co-curricular. Are there other strategies, or is this a challenge in terms of retention in sort of northern higher ed?
Well, of course, like there are challenges, as you may imagine. People aim sometimes at moving out of the municipality, as there are opportunities in certain areas, but sometimes are limited, okay, for some other areas. So of course there are challenges of retaining people, but that's exactly what we try to do here in Fort McMurray with all of this innovation environment that is going on, is that try for the people that come to Fort McMurray to actually stay, to retain them.
Right.
So that my boss even at some point was telling me, if I am able to get one family to move here and stay, I have accomplished my goal. And I will say that that's also part of our philosophy, or our way of looking at things, is that we want not only that they come, but that they also stay, not only being seen as a boom town or oil town. And it talks a lot about diversification.
What is interesting to me is, Fort McMurray, from what I understand, has a fairly high cost of living in terms of, is that accurate?
Yeah, I can tell you that it is accurate. Okay, as you may know, as you may guess, we're in a remote location, so we are, just for visualization purposes, we are 430 kilometers away to the north from Edmonton. So it means that we are 4 hours and a half in time, right? So 430 kilometers, so 4 hours and a half in terms of distance with the biggest, closest population. So of course, it entails an extra cost of moving goods to the north. You may try to say, oh, but what about gas? The oil is produced here but it is refined in Edmonton. So they need to take it from Fort McMurray to Edmonton and back to Fort McMurray as gas. And we end up paying for gas at the same price as in Edmonton, for example. And for now, also in terms of what I was saying, this is, let's say, remote, but not rural. So a lot of things are not produced here. And we just need to, let's say, import them from bigger population centers, which adds to the cost. Now, how expensive it is for the people that is listening to us from Ontario or from British Columbia, how expensive it is? Less expensive than Ontario.
Okay.
Less expensive than Ontario. And then let's say that 20% more than Edmonton. Okay. Or 10 to 20% more than Edmonton.
All right.
Because Edmonton is still cheap. Okay, cheaper than what I was used to in Toronto, for example. Another important point to keep in mind here is that here there's no HST.
So Keyano College, in terms of attracting students with the goal of keeping students, ideally, there are some challenges there that have to be addressed that are maybe somewhat unique to not only Keyano, but sometimes northern schools, but the same might be said in some ways of schools in Toronto, right? And this leads really neatly into my question about sort of operations and business. From an operational perspective, from a financial perspective, are there differences that you can identify to help us better understand the opportunities, but also the challenges of leading a northern college?
Yeah, when you think about it in terms of risk, is that you may say that because we are the only institution in the region, students will come by default here. So that's a wrong assumption that we cannot make. That's an assumption that represents a risk of maybe not dedicating enough marketing efforts to in recruiting students, and that's something that maybe can be identified as a risk. Okay. Another one is in terms of program diversification, that here we need to be very specific on the programs that we offer, because they really need to be relevant to the market demand. Because if not, then you will run easily a program in, I don't know, whatever else. And when students finish, we are not also like achieving our goal of retaining people in Fort McMurray. They will need to go out of Fort McMurray. Okay, so that's another difference that you don't have in Toronto. You can offer a program in whatever you want, and there will be a demand for it. A little bit, but it will be a demand. Even in some of the more specific cases, you will find demand for it, because it's a huge population, also very close to the border, very close to touristic areas. So there are differences there. So of course, like operationally as well, like you may think about, for example, in terms of facilities, in terms of construction, we have a very long winter. So when we need to do renovations, when we need to do stuff like that, we need to take advantage of the spring months that are favorable and the summer months. So we need to be a little bit more efficient on that end. So just to put people in context, like our first snowfall was 2 weeks ago, and since then, like temperatures are below zero, which I think in Toronto is not yet happening. And the last snowfall of the season, of the previous season, was June 1st. So just to put people in context of how it looks here and how things are different, right?
Just for context, we're recording this on November 2nd. So 2 weeks ago, in terms of the first snowfall, that gives you some perspective. So what you're saying before, in terms of cost of living, and these other factors all play into northern education, and the need for innovation, that specificity on relevant programming for the area is seems to be one of the biggest factors there. Looking back a little bit, so as I said, I come from a very small community myself, about 4,000 people, so far less than Fort McMurray, but it was a rural area, and I know the importance in these types of communities of certain institutions, whether they're facilities, whether they're groups, to the sustainability of smaller communities. Now, Fort McMurray has the oil sands, which are it's hard to quantify the advantage of having that there in terms of a driver of the economy and jobs. So Keyano may be a bit different from some other colleges and universities in northern remote rural areas. But generally speaking, if someone were to ask you, based on your experience at Keyano, what is the impact? How important are these institutions to these remote and northern communities? Is there a way to quantify it? What is the impact? And I think I know the answer, but what is the impact of what happens at Keyano on the community? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, perfect. No, David, we can say in simple terms, Keyano College is one of the biggest employers in the area. So what that impacts on the community is that a lot of people, they have at least one friend or a relative that works at Keyano. So that's our first way of giving back to the communities. This is job creation. Another one, how important is this institution in terms of the surrounding areas? Well, as I mentioned, closest institution is maybe hundreds of kilometers away. So, which means that we also offer, which means that this is a very important part of the community in terms of post-secondary education, or even if it is upgrading, or even if it is one of these language programs for newcomers that we also have, like the Link. We also have like the community adult learning program, the CALP, and this serves like newcomers. I can tell you that the wait list, for example, for Link programs is growing every day, and the reason for that is there's a lot of people moving to Fort McMurray, and how important is this institution? As I mentioned, it's a point of connection with the community. It's a community center. So the importance of these institutions and the role that they play is immense.
Yeah. So where the school ends and the community begins, and the community ends and the school begins, it's very, very, everything's kind of connected with everything else and embedded. We only have a few more minutes here, and so I'm wondering if you could briefly touch on what emerging trends in higher education do you believe will be most significant, or have the most significant impact on institutions like Keyano College, northern remote schools, in the coming years?
It's in terms of always innovation, entrepreneurship, integration of computer science, artificial intelligence. That's where we need to be looking at. But we all need to be part of the trend. And let's say, as I mentioned before, there are certain areas that respond specifically to industry needs. So we will keep on responding to the traditional programs that we have at the college, but every time we will need to incorporate more the concept of innovation, of entrepreneurship. That is actually one of those hot areas that Fort McMurray and the regional municipality of Wood Buffalo is working a lot on. A lot more about added value, a lot more about entrepreneurship, small businesses. So that's where I see the trend going, especially for this remote community and for Keyano.
All right. All right. Thank you very much, Henry. I mean, we could continue with this for some time because I find it fascinating. But we're going to call it there. So, Henry, thank you very much for joining us today. We appreciate your insights and your expertise. Hopefully, we'll get a chance to talk again. And viewers, in Mr. Gomez's bio will be in the comment section below. And don't forget to subscribe and like if you want to keep hearing this type of programming. So thank you very much. Have a great day. Thanks, Henry.
Thank you, David.